Hey, it's time for TV Skywriter. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to TV Skywriter. I'm Patricia A. Murray, your host. TV Skywriter is where I introduce you to people you should know. Very often it's musicians, entrepreneurs, authors, whatever, from people from across the country. I should say world because I had a guest in England once. But today's guest is in Pennsylvania. He's a dad, and that really factors in very importantly when we talk about ParentDome.com. This is something that he started because he wanted to keep the kids safe, the kids who are on the internet, the kids who are getting into things that you have no clue about. And we're going to learn right now from Mr. Ryan Miller. Welcome, Ryan.
Patricia, thank you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me on to speak with you and to share what I have developed with your audience.
Absolutely. And I apologize. We were doing a test run. While I was talking, it was showing Ryan's face. This is my face, obviously. Sorry about that. Technical glitch, still learning. But Ryan, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to apologize for that glitch. But go ahead.
No problem. So I was just thanking you very much for the opportunity to speak with you and meet with you and the previous conversations we had before this video, and sharing with your audience my concerns about the risks and threats and dangers of children being connected to the internet.
Okay. I want to ask you this question before you really get started.
Sure.
Now, most folks I know aren't really rich. I didn't know that even average citizens are now being able to afford to give their kids smartphones.
Yeah.
When I realized that, because here's how I realized it. I was watching Periscope. This is something new. It is a live streaming app, something I'm really getting into. I do a scope every day. They call them scopes. I do something called Bull City Notes every day. And I'm starting to notice children doing scopes. And I also noticed that there are very inappropriate people on scopes. They call them trolls. They like to enter people's scopes and say filthy things to them or distracting things to them. When I realized that kids were on Periscope, I realized that I should just kind of hover around, and as soon as I see something inappropriate, I'll block the person in my attempt to protect the child. Then when I came across your scope, Ryan, you were taking this so far beyond anything I'd ever realized could happen. I decided I wanted you to call me. I wanted to talk with you, wanted to get you on the show. And I just wanted to let people know that that's how we met. And that's my concern. I had no idea that people were approaching kids in this manner. So I want you to take it from there, and I'll shut up.
No, that was fine. And you made some very good points. I'm going to make notes so I make sure to cover some of the things that you said. But a little bit of context around me. I'm going to share a little personal information, but it's part of what is part of my journey and why I have developed what I have developed. So in my teen years, I was a victim of a sexual predator. And through therapy, I was able to come to terms with that. But that was something that formed something inside of me at a very young age that I didn't really understand how it was going to manifest itself. But at a young age, I wound up being kind of a defense or an advocate for other kids that I was able to perceive having difficulties. So during this journey, maturing through my teens and my young adult years, I did not grow up on the internet like kids are growing up on it today. We had other forms of threats and concerns to be aware of. But my wife and I were also advanced infertility patients, so it took a long time for us to have a child. We lost a couple of children. And during that period, I was afforded the ability to be older when I had my first child. And I had a lot more wisdom as a more mature man as I would have as a young man. So when that child came to our life and she grows up, she is of the age of being in the internet. And knowing the dangers and being aware of the dangers, I thought when she is on this, being connected to this internet world, I'm going to be very vigilant and make sure that I am going to control our environment, to control what she sees on TV, control what she may use on the computer. And when it came to the age of getting her a smartphone, to have a secured experience on the smartphone. So I did a lot of research, a lot of studying, reached out to certain groups, acquired software. And unfortunately, my daughter became a victim of some of the nasty activities that happen on the internet. And I won't speak specifically to what that was, but during the course of identifying the perpetrator against her, I found that this individual was a man, 26 years old, and he had been causing great harm with about 26, or more than that, but 26 counts is what this young man was charged with, and he went to jail because of his activities. So what happened from that was that I was like, holy smokes, Ryan, you leave a pretty secure life, and this guy was able to come in and do what he did. What's happening with parents that don't have the experience that I have? So that was a launching platform for me to do extensive research. I went in and I talked to school principals, administrators, teachers, guidance counselors, psychologists, people in the social services fields, attorneys, police officers, and I got a very full-rounded community society feedback. And I wound up hearing it is an epidemic problem. So what I did is I went and gathered all these resources, focusing on helping parents on 3 main platforms, increasing their awareness of what the internet is all about and the risks and dangers associated with it. 2, to talk to them about oversight, and then 3, to introduce measures of control. But these are all intended to be appropriate depending upon multiple family dynamics, blended families, single parent families, also addressing seniors that may be concerned with their grandchildren. It's meant to be an open forum for people to kind of go along at their own pace. So there was an introduction.
Okay. Now, I'm not a parent, so I'm going to say something that might be ignorant. I don't mind being ignorant for a few seconds. But, you know, when I was a kid, we all watched TV together.
Yes.
My folks, they did have a TV in their bedroom, but for the most part, we all watched together in the den. Of course, this is pre-computer, but I'm noticing kids' bedrooms now seem to be more like apartments, you know, cell phones, jacuzzis, and I mean, it's ridiculous. When you got sent up to your bedroom when you were a kid, when I was a kid rather, that was punishment. But now it's like, oh, cool, you know, I'll just, you know, enter my own little private world. So here's my question. My thing is, I figure, okay, kids are getting in trouble on the internet. Don't buy them a smartphone. Keep the computer in the kitchen. Does that solve everything?
Well, that is a logical way to think about it, and it really is. It's like if you've never been born, you have no concern of dying. So that's a way you have no problem. You have no concern in getting in trouble on the internet if you're not connected to the internet. So that is one approach. And to your point, that the kids are, instead of being put in front of a TV, the parents are putting them in front of a smartphone or some other device, and they're not participating with what's happening behind that screen. So let's say that the child is already in possession of an internet experience. They have a social media platform. They're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're on whatever social media things they are using. And now, based upon a conversation of something that I may say, you're like, ooh, let's take it away. Well, I am of the opinion, and that's a fine approach, but I'm of the opinion that doing that creates friction, and that having a conversation with the child is, listen, dear son, whatever, you know what? I just became aware of some things that I hadn't known before, and my immediate instinct is to pull you off of the internet. But I know that that's something that you spend a lot of time and you enjoy. But based upon these concerns, have a conversation about it and have a transition that is based upon your oversight. And I can talk about those things, but the yank away is going to be a blowback from children because they want their independence and they want their freedom. And I'm more of the approach that based upon awareness, you put in steps, process, and oversight to make sure they're safe.
Plus, if you take away your kid's cell phone, they'll go to Johnny or Judy's house, and maybe their parents are looser and they have smartphones, and because they,
Yes.
you know, your kid knows they're not supposed to be on the internet, and they're with their friends, and they get into even more trouble because now it's something illicit and fun.
Yeah, and that happens quite a bit when a child has been punished and their technology is taken away. Actually, something bigger happens on the other side. It's like stepping on a balloon. When you try to squish the balloon, it's going to pop out somewhere else, and that's what you just related is what happens.
Okay. So you actually have the inside track. You are unlike probably most parents in that you actually know the apps that the kids are using, and you know how to monitor. Tell us how to best even consider monitoring our kids, because I think the average adult might not even know the names of the apps that the kids have downloaded.
So this is a supercomputer that we have in our kids' hands now. And there's some very basic steps that I strongly encourage. And as you saw, during my Periscopes, I give quick fix answers. And I'll just give you an example. That at home, people have laptops that have a camera on them. And 99% of the United States has no knowledge whether that camera is working or not when it's in your home. And I say the first step you do in your awareness is take a Post-it note and stick it over the camera on your laptop. That's not meaning that the video camera is not working. It doesn't mean your audio is not working. It's a way that I've exposed a risk that camera could be operating, and I'm giving you a quick answer to not let anybody see what's happening on your camera.
Okay, now, when would your camera be operating if you're not doing a Periscope or doing a Google Plus Hangout? I mean, don't you have to operate that yourself or turn it on yourself?
Actually, you do not. And this is in the domain where my lessons really are of value to kind of explain how some of this happens. There's spyware, adware, virus, ransomware, all different kinds of Trojans, phishing scams, that if you erroneously downloaded something, and even though your spyware may have gotten rid of it, there is a huge percentage of laptops in the country that their cameras have been seized and they're being hijacked. Now, without a level of forensic detail that I could tell people how to find out who came in, who did it, and how to take it back control over it.
Wow.
But yes, they can absolutely be taking control of, and your audio. And in the state of Pennsylvania, you were talking about people not having financial means. In our state, the schools provide iPads and or tablets to the students.
Whoa.
Well, one school district, they sent the tablets home with the cameras enabled in the children's bedrooms. So the school was actually doing it. Now they were brought up on charges for invasion of privacy, but I'm just talking one tiny sliver of risk.
I'm sure that was a mistake of some kind. They weren't trying to spy on the kiddies.
I would not want to pretend that I knew the motives one way or the other behind the school wanting to gain access to the camera. One of the things that was listed in the defense of the school was that they wanted to ensure that the kids were doing their homework, and they had a way to have eyes on that they were doing their homework.
That's what parents are for.
You would be preaching to the choir when you would say a statement like that.
That's ridiculous.
Parents, I mean, as a parent, I can easily admit that I don't know what I don't know. And if I have people affirming me all the time, I am going to stay in this safe little comfortable bubble of that I don't know what I don't know, and I don't have the ability to learn something else. My voice is outside of that bubble, that I am sharing things with people which are uncomfortable and dangerous. And it's ultimately to help the parents.
Maybe they should make computers so that when the camera's on and working, there's like a little blue light emanating from around it or something. Like right now, my Logitech camera that I'm looking into right now, my third-party camera, has a blue light showing me
Yes.
that it's on.
Yes, but unfortunately with software, there's ways to manipulate that. So the way that, and I believe you and I have the same camera, when I am done any recording, my USB is unplugged from my camera. So there's no way to take advantage of my.
Oh, I never thought of that. Huh, okay. Oh, you just froze.
But it's
Okay, there you
completely
go.
locked down. Yes.
Huh.
So we just talked, I just dropped that little nugget that the camera, and that's a big risk, but that camera is now in our phones, and children are taking their smartphones and they're taking pictures, they're taking videos. And if we don't see what those pictures are or those videos are, they go out onto the internet. They last forever. The internet doesn't expire. That content lasts forever. And if it happens to be a photo that's embarrassing, inappropriate, or heaven forbid, illegal, that could have major consequences, not only for the child, but it can actually travel back to the parent. And that's even the scarier message to tell.
How could it hurt the child? And then you can tell us how it hurts the parent.
Okay. So tomorrow, by the way, is Bully Awareness Day. So that's one of the areas in which photos are used to intimidate or bully children. So kids take photos and they use them. They take them through Photoshop and they edit them. They put crazy quotes around them. They put them on social media profiles so they can be very damaging. There's another aspect of the photos which is dangerous that people aren't aware of, and that is that the location settings of your camera, the location settings of your phone identify where you actually took a photo. So when a child is taking photos, they're leaving what I call digital footprints or digital breadcrumbs as to where they're going and what they're taking pictures of. So let's go into the extreme that a child took potentially an illegal photo, whatever we want to put in the context of what the image is, but it's illegal. They're a minor, so that meets the illegal piece. So that could be a felony charge for a child. But it really comes into a bigger issue. Well, I mean, that affects their education future.
Okay, let me back up, because you're saying illegal, and I'm wondering, the only thing that I can think of would be a picture of a naked child, or maybe they coerce a child to take a picture of themselves naked or something.
Yes. And I don't know if you were, I don't remember which Periscope you saw, but I did a Periscope on that exact issue. A young boy had happened to take a photo of a young girl in school, and she had been revealing a little bit too much of herself, and he took a picture without her awareness.
Oh boy.
The school found it. School confiscated the phone. The little boy gave his password to the school. They opened up the phone and they were able to see not just one image, several images.
Oh no.
So that young boy was in trouble. But here's where the parents come in, that they're not aware of the legality. And I believe in my course of my research in the law, I am not a lawyer, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, but I am passionate. So I wanted to find all the questions. So this device can only be purchased by an adult.
Okay.
They cannot sell it to children if it's a smartphone, because you cannot have a contract with a minor. So an adult has a contract with a cell phone. They in turn give that cell phone to a minor.
Okay.
The minor takes the photos, which are illegal, but that was an illegal device to begin with. So it's actually the parent's property.
Oh.
So now there's legal charges or legal exposure to the parent, because the contract on this device is between the parent and the cellular carrier. And that in my website, I have case studies and white papers and reports on that actual issue. So the child gets brought up on charges, the parent gets brought up on charges, and then the parent is now a sexual predator.
See, that's what I was going to ask, if the pictures of a child, even though the parent's not involved at all, because it's technically his or her.
They are involved.
So they can actually be nailed as a sexual predator, even though they did not take the picture.
That is correct.
But
They've been
because they
charged
technically are in, they have in their possession, technically speaking, a photo
Correct.
of a nude
They're in
young
possession.
person.
And if it was shared off of that
Oh.
phone, they're in the transportation of child porn.
Oh my
So
God.
that's a second felony.
Oh my God.
So, and I really apologize because this stuff sounds really harsh, and that's not my intention, because I've gone through this, and sometimes the harsh stuff is kind of to wake you up, but that's not the predominant stuff that's happening on the internet. That is happening, and parents are getting brought up on charges. But
they have to know this stuff, Ryan. This is deep.
I agree.
I don't want to leave this just yet, because what I would like to ask is, since all cell phones have to be charged,
yes,
would you think that it would be smart for the parent to take the child's cell phone every night to charge it in their bedroom, and that they observe what the child's been doing that day?
Oh, that's great. That's a great process, and that would fall underneath of my category. First is the awareness, and then it's under the oversight.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of levels of oversight. One of the parents that I have spoken to said that their practice is that they have a relationship and a level of responsibility that they will assign to their child to use the internet. But the rule is that every night that phone, the parent goes through the history.
Mm-hmm.
So they're able to see everything that the child searched on the internet history. And then they see what their activity was in their social media platforms. And then this parent also has a program in place that they
He just froze. I hope it fixes itself in a second.
Relationship with my daughter, that I see everything that she does.
Okay.
And in the oversight piece, if my daughter deletes something or deletes her history, she loses her device, because that's the contract that we have with each other.
Wow.
That I'll give you this device, and these are the rules. You violate the rules, here's the consequence.
Okay. Now, a lot of us adults know that kids are sometimes more savvy than we are in the area of technology. Yeah. So are there ways, I'm going to ask this two ways. Are there ways for kids to hide things in the cloud? And also, are there ways for kids are there such things as hidden, I don't even know the term, I'm trying to think of a word, a hidden, let's just say box for a child to put things in to hide it from the parents? Is that possible?
Yes. That is possible, and it is actually probable. Depending upon the parent's ability to allow the child to gain access to cloud-based storage, mm-hmm. It is quite probable that the child has something on the internet for cloud-based storage, because they want to put their photos somewhere, or they've got videos that they want to keep. The phone only has so much storage capacity on it, so they're going to find another place to put it. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that you asked is, there's a word for it, and it's called actually a vault application, a vault, like a security vault. And there are many different flavors of those that are free downloaded apps. One of them appears just like a calculator. So if the parents were to pick up the cell phone and they saw a calculator on the phone, they wouldn't be surprised, just like seeing a clock. Mm-hmm. But what it is a child sets up a password on that calculator, and the calculator opens up, metaphorically, it opened up a container which they can put photos, texts, videos, anything they want into that folder, and then shut that calculator again, and the parents have no knowledge. And it's a child's password on the parents. So that's actually quite common today.
Oh, it's common. I never even heard of it. I couldn't even think of a word for it. It's already been invented and used.
It's common for kids. So if you have a 12 to 17-year-old, and a large percentage of them have that Vault app on their phone.
Okay, so a parent who, while the child is, I don't know, asleep or taking a bath, whatever, so if they're checking their phone out, how can they get access to this vault you're talking about? I mean, if only the kid knows the password. How can the parent work around that?
They they would have to have a conversation with their kid, and hopefully the parent has enough authority in the relationship to require that Vault app, the kid, to open the password to that device and to that application to see what's inside of there. And that's a friction-based conversation. But short of that, there's nothing other than a hard factory reset of the phone can they do.
Oh, so what does that do? You said a hard factory reset. What's that?
So a hard factory reset is you're taking the phone and you're restoring it to factory settings, and all the applications that were on there will be gone. Yeah,
that could work.
It could work, but that's a very high level of punishment to a child, that you've just taken all of their things that are on their smartphone and made them disappear. Oh. So I'm more of the conversation that build the relationship with your child to be aware of these things. Let's look at the phone together. Let's talk about them. What does this app, talk to your child? What does this app do? Well, let me cross-reference that with what Ryan says about this app. You guys come to terms in your relationship of your family of, okay, I can give you permission to do that, but this I don't want to give you permission to because this is dangerous.
Okay.
And that's what my site goes through, all of the the popular apps, the not so popular apps, the very dangerous apps. So here's another one. If anyone in your audience has a child or knows someone that has the application ask.fm, ask.fm.
Okay.
If you have a young child with that application on that phone and you're not reading what's happening on it, my first response would be, get that off your phone right away.
Oh my God, what is it?
It's an application which is very heavily trafficked by predators. It seems very innocent at first, and if you were to sign on and try it and pretend you were somebody else, it sounds very innocent. That you created a profile, anonymous. It's not attached to anything. You've created your own alias in the internet, and the reason it's called Ask FM, they ask you questions. What is your favorite color? You reply your favorite color. Who's your favorite musician? You reply your favorite musician, and it builds up this profile based upon people asking you questions. And within about 7 to 10 questions, innuendo starts to come into the conversation.
Oh.
And kids are not very good at perceiving certain types of innuendo, and then it gets deeper into conversation. And then the next thing you have is some stranger asking your child what type of underwear, what color underwear, and then it gets even more intimate and inappropriate.
Oh boy. Ask.fm?
Exactly correct.
Wow.
Now, there are other applications that are like that, but that is the most popular one that kids, because it's free, they can do it on Wi-Fi, they don't need an internet connection, so they really gravitate towards that.
Okay.
And that company is based in Latvia, so the terms and services that are attached when people download that application, it's a 17-year-old rated app, but nobody's reading the terms and services of what they download.
Wow.
No.
Wow. I was reading about a young person who had a phone, his own smartphone, in his bedroom. Again, it was like an apartment. He had all the comforts that you could ever want in his room, and so he was always in there. His parents didn't think that was weird. A person approached him online, and they started some back and forth, some conversation. You know, he didn't know whether this person was older or younger or what. This is like a preteen, like 12, maybe 13. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So the person, they're looking at each other like we are. It's a video back and forth. So the person's like, oh, I know you have an owie, you like a Band-Aid.
Oh.
Show me your scar. So the kid shows him his scar. And they're talking and talking. In later conversations, he asked the kid to show him something else. You can imagine what it was. Eventually, it got to the point where he started asking the child to do inappropriate things. Mm-hmm. And he was sending the child money.
Yes.
The kid was stuck because he knew that this had crossed a line, and I don't even know if the kid had paid, but I don't know how he was getting paid. I don't remember that part, but he was getting.
But he also could be blackmailed because this other predator could record it and say, well, you keep doing this or I'll show your parents what you're doing.
Exactly what I was going to say. He was stuck.
Sorry.
No, that's great. No, he was stuck because he couldn't stop because the guy said exactly what she said. He was going to expose, excuse the poor choice of word, but he was going to expose the child to the parents because he had filmed it and they had had these conversations. He had sent money. The kid was stuck.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he was able to extricate himself. I think eventually the guy did get caught. But
well, in my site, I have a lot of psychological research, and particularly into certain things that are very popular on the internet. And there's a real evil underbelly of the internet. Now, some people may not consider it evil, but it definitely has detrimental effects to the wiring and the chemistry and the firing of the brain. And I don't want to say my opinion on it. The data speaks for itself. And when you're talking about particularly sexual deviance or things that are in the predator domain, like that story you told, cyber predators or pedophiles or people that have those kind of challenges are not into an immediate hit. They groom people.
mm-hmm.
They cultivate them. And they don't just cultivate one person, they're cultivating multiple people because they know at any one moment someone could fall off of their cultivation.
Okay.
So now my audience is parents, and I'm talking to adults and kids. When somebody is on the internet, they are at risk of being part of that cultivation. So parents putting technology in children's hands at a young age and thinking that they're being occupied doing something, if they don't have eyes on what they're doing, your child could be cultivated by a sexual predator. And I'm going to throw another example out for your audience, because this is for parents that have kids that are 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is the preteens. So there's a very popular game out called Webkinz. And it's a very fun game. It's cute. You get these little characters. You travel through fantasy land. You play skill games, and it helps you with your dexterity with your mouse and keyboard. Very fun experience, and it's lots of cool things happen on it. Okay. On the flip side, because it's in a community, you're not just playing by yourself. There's a community that these little characters are. Predators come in and create characters and mix in with the kids. Now, they can text. They're not going to be a video communication, but they're going to have a conversation with them. And that's happening at very, very young age. The only way a young child would notice it, they're probably not going to notice it, but the parent would notice that the comments coming in through that form are going to be a little bit more, they're not age appropriate. They're not a 6-year-old or 7-year-old or 8-year-old texting. It's an adult.
Wow. I mean, no one's safe. We're not trying to just scare people.
I don't want to scare people.
I think it's more like parents buy their kids cell phones thinking that
they have tools on how to address it.
Yeah, because we just aren't aware. Very, very. I mean, we're busy. We're working. Some are working a couple of jobs, and we're just not even aware, not keeping up. And actually, I think it's really incumbent upon adults if they're going to buy kids. It's just like when you hear kids in the South saying, "We've always owned guns, and we were taught how to operate them safely, handle them safely, rather." Put them up when we're done, and they've never been a big deal.
Well, actually a gun with the child based upon the amount of supervision and oversight.
He froze again. I hope it fixes itself. It will.
Guns, we would have no problem, because I believe in the South and that culture that they are very diligent about how they train and oversee and talk about safety, have them locked up. They're very proactive about it. But regarding technology, it's like, this is the TV now. Just let them go. They won't bother us. And I apologize, Patricia. My message is a difficult one to say. And I really, my goal is not to do shock and awe. It's not. I think it's important for parents to be aware. And some of the things I say are kind of like, holy smokes. It's like, had no idea. Well, there's a lot out there. And my educational platform gives people the ability to see how many lessons I have and all the different areas, because I've just touched on maybe 0.5% of how broad it reaches.
Okay.
So
well, for those of us who are watching, who are parents or grandparents, and those of us who might not be very tech savvy, can you give us, I mean, you did explain what you do see on ParentDome.com, which is your website, but could you give us like a,
sure,
just walk us through the intro again?
Well, if I can say that I'm a dad, and I am a passionate dad on this topic, but I am not an internet marketer, nor am I a website builder of any shape or form. So what that site at ParentDome.com is all of my lessons and modules. But I'm gonna share with your audience how this will, what I have put together just for your audience. What I have is my site is about protecting kids on the internet, specifically all aspects of the internet, all connection points. So on here is a bit.ly address that's just for the people that you invited me to talk to, Patricia. And in there, it gives a little bit more background about myself. I give some people some free tools that I mentioned during the show. I talked about like a family contract, the relationship between the parents and the devices. So that www.bit.ly address is just for your people that watch Durham Skywriter.
Okay.
I also have a couple of social media platforms that I am active in. And if parents want to see more of what I'm about and who I am, the way I communicate, the issues I talk about, they can find me on my Facebook, they can find me on my Twitter, and also on Periscope. And Periscope, I will continually be providing kind of those updates.
That's really excellent. So I hope people are jotting this down or taking a screenshot or whatever they do nowadays. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that.
Very good.
Now, do you have an opinion? I know you told us about the contract and talking to the child, but as a dad, I know you gave your child a cell phone at what I would consider a young age.
Yes.
Looking back, would you say that there should now be a minimum age for a child who could be trusted with a cell phone? Not the kid's not trustworthy, but just the fear of people just messing with your kid, basically.
I believe that age is not a demarcation point for maturity. I think that is what our education differently. So I would be hesitant to say 12, 13, 14 about that. I know that it's not a regulatory issue. It's not a phone company requirement, but it's a big peer pressure issue that different families are giving to them younger. I was the odd man out. My daughter's peers were getting their cell phones in 4th grade, smartphones in 4th grade. What? And that was brutal. I could not put a $700 piece of equipment in a 4th grader's hands. I couldn't do that. So
I can't believe that. I mean, just to me, the cost alone would be a deal breaker.
Yes, it is. But some kids are responsible, and the parental oversight is firm, and the relationships are strong. That may be at a young age, but I wouldn't know what that would be. Hindsight, I think I wouldn't have changed it in my role. I wouldn't have changed it. We didn't give it to her until she was in 8th grade, and she's 7th grade. Take that back, 7th grade. I wish I had more knowledge on how much I needed to protect her. And
it's unfortunate, isn't it? That you
it's very
have to
unfortunate.
think about it.
It is. Well, I believe that I know myself. I know myself very well, and I know I can make poor choices. So, and I allow my wife to look at my computer. I don't hide any passwords from her. She checks my history. Everything is open. But if I lived in a different kind of mindset, I would want to hide stuff from her. That's not the way I think.
Actually, I don't know if it was your Periscope or someone's Periscope. I don't think it was you. It was someone else. They were talking about that. If you're afraid to give your wife or your spouse, husband, whatever, your password, then you're hiding something.
Oh,
it sounded like quite a challenge, but that was how they felt about it. They felt that families should be totally open with each other and not hide things. And of course, they were talking about pornography and such things.
Well, can I share? And this maybe you saw me in another social media platform. I opened up a room, and the title of the room was called The Transparency Test.
Oh.
And the requirements were you had to be married, and that both couples needed to be by the computer at the same time, and either partner could submit to the test, and the other partner would grade the test. So I would have people come in. So I would have a man sit across the table, across the computer from me, and I said, "Do you want to take the favor? Go up to your browser window and click the settings and open up the history and show your wife your computer history and scroll down right in front of her all of your history."
Okay.
And I will say 90% of the men said, "Why are you asking me to show the history?" And I said, "This is the transparency test. Is there something that you want to hide from your wife in your history, or do you want to take the test? Your wife is going to give you a pass or fail grade. Open up your history and show it to her." And 90% of the men wouldn't do it. So what that said to me, that there was something that they had in their history that they wanted to hide from their wives. So that's not very transparent. So they failed the test.
Wow. Well, that's between adults. So I guess I won't cover that in this particular conversation, but I guess that's something to at least for people to think about. Because I think during this conversation, I think we're more concerned with the kiddies.
And it's very true. And I guess the tie into there, it's kind of do as I say, not as I do kind of thing.
Exactly.
So if the parents are modeling a behavior, it's kind of hard to chastise their children if they may be mimicking that behavior.
Exactly. So are there other programs that the parents should know about? You mentioned ask.fm. You also told us about this calculator that masks itself as a vault that masks itself as a calculator. Are there other tricks?
Many. I mean, if you had somebody that had a pen and a paper and I could go through an extensive list of them. I mean, Kik, Snapchat, Cyberdust, Trello, Hootsuite, Uvu, Skype, Periscope, Meerkat. I mean, the list is long, and I have them all covered in my my site, and the pros and cons. They're not all bad, but things that can be good can be used for bad, and you just need to be aware of it.
Sure. And I still think that my modest little idea of if you're on Periscope, and Periscope is, again, a live streaming, it's totally innocuous until it's used incorrectly. Basically, it's just live streaming from your smartphone. I intend to use it a lot in my journalism, going through town, showing you what's happening. But my little idea was that if you're an adult and you're looking for things, you can search for things to watch on Periscope, either by the map, because I like to see, people who are scoping from North Carolina naturally.
Sure.
And then you could go down the list and just see who's doing what and just click and just watch. So when I come across a kid or a couple of kids on Periscope, and I haven't seen kids on lately, but when I do see kids, I just hover. And there is a way to protect them. If someone says something inappropriate, you click on that person's name or the statement and block. It says block. What does it say? Block user, I believe
yes,
it is.
You can block the user.
Yeah, so you can block. That means that they can no longer enter any of the scopes of your child or that child Of course, very often they say trolls have more than one account, but at least they can't use that one account to bother that child or to bother you. Because today I got my first troll today.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I just ignored him because I was surprised to see it and I didn't react. I just continued talking and they didn't say anything else. I guess they figured, oh, well,
That's one way, because they will go away if you don't address them.
Yeah, so I just ignored it and nothing else happened. So it was embarrassing for me to see a word on the screen.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. And as I participate on Periscope as well, that's how we met. And that I do videos to teach parents about particular topics. And frequently, I guess in the past 3 scopes I've done, children have been in there and that they have shared that they are being cyberbullied and some bad stuff is happening.
Oh boy.
And I had to change my position because I thought I was just talking to parents. And then the kids come in. Now I say a message to the kids. I can't address your issue through Periscope because it's not a therapeutic kind of thing and it's one-sided communication. But I say, go to your parents. And if you're not comfortable going to your parents, this is going to get, wait till you hear where this winds up. If you're not comfortable going to your parents, go to your friends and go to your friends' parents. If you are uncomfortable doing that and it's something really bad and dangerous, in my profile on Periscope, I put a bit.ly link for a drop down, a download of a crisis hotline list. So it's 2 pages worth of crisis hotlines that deal with all different types of crisis. Non-discriminatory, just all out there. If you are of this mindset, call this number. I've only been on Periscope for a week, and that has been downloaded over 100 times by kids.
Oh boy.
By kids. So that says to me that one, parents aren't aware that the kids are on Periscope and they aren't aware that their kids have some type of trauma that they would want to download a crisis hotline list.
Wow.
So
that is really scary.
It is scary.
Wow.
But I'm glad that they're able to get their hands on it so they can hopefully do something about it.
I think that now Periscope is fun. It's a lot of fun sharing with your friends and they're giggling with their buddies. But I'm thinking maybe now that parents know that Periscope is out there and Meerkat is similar, maybe they can sort of nip it in the bud in a way by saying we're going to do family scopes.
Those
Fridays at 7, we'll goof around with our friends. Tell all your friends to get on Periscope and let's goof around.
But video streaming services are not just through Periscope and Meerkat. These are just new ones that are social media that are tied to another social media platform such as Twitter. But there is Uvu, there's Skype, there's Chat Roulette, there's Omegle. These are video sites that are kids hang on. Kids live in Chat Roulette. Kids live in Omegle.
I never heard of those.
I know, and that's part of the awareness again. It's about you don't know what you don't know, and if I tell you about it, I don't want to tell you how bad it is, but these where the kids are. I was over at my friend's. I did the buddy walk today for my little buddy Gabe from Down syndrome, and I went over to their house afterwards, and my buddy's daughter was playing on a new app that just came out. It's about 10 days old, and I'm watching her. I downloaded it. I watched it for about 5 minutes, and I saw content that I have no business seeing, and it's targeting kids. And I thought, I got to come home tonight, do what I'm doing with you, and write another lesson about this new app that just came out and the horrible stuff that's happening with it. So it's everywhere. You can't keep a hold of it all.
I guess not. I mean, is it? I'm not a mom. I mean, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to say, but I would hate to think that you have to broach certain subjects with your children before puberty. Do you have to tell them about the evil that certain people are doing in this world and how they're preying on children? I mean, that's not the kind of talks that I had with my parents when I was a kid.
It's not the message. So a parent wants to deal with their child age appropriately. But unfortunately, when you give something like the smartphone and instant access to the internet, you're having conversation in advance of their maturity.
Yeah.
So I would say know what you're willing to let your child do on the device and put hard, fast. So that's the last leg of my triad. It's awareness, oversight, and controls. So you take control of the device and limit what it can do. And as they advance in their maturity, you give them additional liberties. And it's a reward-based system that as they become responsible, you give them a treat. You get responsibility, you give them a treat. But I mean, Carl Sagan, the astronomer, said we're coming to an age in technology where we're not going to have the responsibility to know how to be a steward of that technology. And that's where we are today.
Yeah.
It's way beyond our ability to be stewards of it.
So I guess we do have to, again, like you said, if you're going to do this, give your child access to the internet and in the privacy of their own mini apartments, as I call bedrooms now, then I guess you do have to broach these subjects and warn your children, educate them, and at the same time, educate yourself, because kids catch on so quick to everything. Especially when they're interested in something, they really pick up on it.
So there's a quote out there that makes a lot of sense in this scenario. And if a goal without a plan is a wish, and if my goal is that by giving my child access to the internet that I want them to have a good time and be safe, if I don't have a plan to ensure they are safe, I just really hope that they're going to be safe.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a crapshoot, because they may be totally safe. They may never encounter these horrible things. The statistics say that that's a pretty remote possibility, but it is a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. At least they'll learn how to hopefully navigate the world in such a way that things that alarm and shock us, they'll know how to steer around skillfully, right? And hopefully, even though it's stuff that scares me, just the thought of people approaching a child inappropriately it just rattles me. Maybe more because I'm not a mom. I guess my imagination is just, oh my God, this is just the worst thing in the world.
And as a dad, it's a scary thing. I will tell you, it is a scary thing.
Yeah, boy. Well,
yeah.
I do hope that people enjoyed this show, at least enjoyed learning the fact that they've got some work ahead of them, and that maybe, even though nothing has happened yet, hopefully, that they can get a hold of it, establish some rules. And I wish there was kind of again, remember I was telling you how it might be cool for the parent to charge the phone in their room and to check, check what the child's done that day. Maybe eventually there'll be some apps for parents to help them monitor.
Oh, there are, but there's a whole of applications that are to help parents do that. Yes. So, I mean, if you wanted 100% secured life relative to anything that your kid was doing on the internet,
yes,
that would there's a price point for that. So the applications that are out there, what you need to do at the home, you're looking at an investment of probably $1,500, and then you are going to be spending around $300 a month just to keep your child secure on the internet.
Wow. Might as well just wrap them in bubble wrap and carry them around with you.
That's right. But then the more controls that you're willing to take on yourself, you can reduce your cost. But and that's where my mind is, that I will say, here are the tools if you want to take an active step in this, and I'll coach you through it. Or you can go get these apps, and if you have the means, go buy them.
Okay.
Just single destination to get those questions answered.
Okay. So I guess people should get started at least by checking out your website.
I think that would be good.
Even though they might be horrified at first at all the different ways that people can approach children, it's good to learn how to shut the door on these people. And I don't want to ask you how you caught the person who was approaching your child, but obviously that is an alternative. if something does happen where your child's approached, obviously there are steps that you can take to really take care of that.
Yes,
right?
there are steps, and that you have to hire a private investigator. But I would say anybody that is experiencing that kind of problem, we live in a wonderful country that affords us some constitutional privilege. And I would say anybody who has a child that there's a concern, do not let anyone have your child's password. Do not ever give your phone device, your child's phone, to police officers, that they must give you a warrant before they take your child's phone. First
I'm
line of
so
defense.
glad you said that. I want to go back because we had this conversation over the phone. I want you to not go into sharp detail regarding the child this happened to, but you did say that the school, this particular school, asked this particular child to give up the phone.
Yes.
The child gave the password, which opened the door for them to look at the phone, and the child and the parents got in trouble. Now, I'm not saying that a child should do something wrong and get away with it, but there are ways of dealing with problems with your kid. And I like the fact that you said that the kid should know better. You should teach the child. It's not something that the child's going to know inherently.
They're not. They'll give in to the authority of the school.
Exactly, because the school's going to tell them, if you don't give us the password, we're going to call your parents, and then
Please
you're in big trouble.
Call me.
So I really want you to explain that to the parents, that, like you said in the beginning, the contract of the phone is between the phone company and the parent. So the child should not give up the password just because the principal, and I know these,
never.
I can imagine how angry a principal and a teacher can get. I can imagine them getting in the kid's face and threatening them with expulsion and all kinds of things. But
that's fine. That's just like police bully tactics. That child, my child, knows that nobody on this planet gets that password other than myself and my wife. My parents have access to the password, but I have a password protected if something happened to us that they could get that. But no, only people that are available to that password are the parents and the child. Anybody else, it has to be under the legal issue of a warrant.
Exactly. So even if the child is in the wrong, like you said, even if a kid took an inappropriate, it's just like if you're an adult and you're picked up by the police and you say, I don't want to say anything until my lawyer gets here. It's the same thing. If the kid feels that oh boy, I'm about to get in really big trouble because they're threatening me with expulsion, then the kid should say, hey, call my parents.
Yeah, call my parents. Absolutely call my parents. And you know what? The trouble of the parents coming in is nothing compared to how bad it could really be, because the school has one set of criteria for determining what is an inappropriate photo and the punishment associated with it. But when you put it into the police and the decisions they have to make about that image is different. And then the police are not just going after the child, they're going after the parent. So this is in the best wisdom of the parent to protect themselves. Because if a bad photo, the contract is with the adult. The contract is not with the child. The adult owns everything on that phone, regardless of who pushed the button.
Exactly. So
the parent, if they're not concerned about digital images and the appropriateness of it being exposed and caught, well, okay. But I don't think it's in their best interest to make sure they get that password protected.
I think that, I think that when the parent gives the child the cell phone, that should be the first thing they tell them. This phone has a password. In fact, do you think the child should know the password? Or, I mean, that would make it, if the child doesn't know the password, then the principal can't threaten him with expulsion if the child honestly doesn't know the password, right?
So they can't get into the phone. So today's technology is that they are, there's a password and then there's a fingerprint. So you can open the phone with a fingerprint swipe. So that's a better level of security, but the school can require the kid to use their fingerprint to open it up. But I prefer a password. And the simple answer is the password doesn't go anywhere outside the home. Nobody has it. I actually did a social media experiment video with parents, and I said, do you think I could get your password from your kid? And they said, there's no way. And I was at a local community fair. And I said, stand over here, and I'm going to try an experiment. And all the teen kids let me borrow their phone, and they gave me the password to open up their phone.
Oh, wow.
It's horrible.
Oh, my God. Way too easy, huh?
Well, I brought the parent over, and I said, look, your kid just gave me the password. And the kid got in trouble, but it's something more than a conversation. It requires action. Right.
Well, if they're giving their kids this much responsibility, then they have to really talk about these issues.
That's from our standpoint, and I agree, because my message is a tough message, and I am on the mindset that they should have those conversations, but they're hard conversations. And sometimes the words that we need to navigate that conversation are hard to come by. So I say, like you said earlier, should we take the technology away from them? I don't think that, but it's using more words, not more action. It's a process.
Okay. And with that, I want to thank you so much, Ryan Miller, for being on the show.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
So that screen share you did, I will actually put that website that you listed in the credits of the show as well, so that people won't have to try to find it. Okay, so I'd like to do that, because I really want parents to know this information. It's really super important. I had no idea that all this was going on right under my nose. I just had no clue until I started watching your scopes, and until I started, it just really occurred to me that kids were being approached on the internet when I saw people making inappropriate comments to children's Periscope sessions, and which means that was only within 1 week. That's how clueless I am.
And honestly, I really appreciate that you found me on Periscope, the conversations that we've had, the ability to speak to your audience. It's been a great opportunity for me, and any of your listeners can reach out to me on the social media platform. I understand my message is a tough message, but my position is I'm coming from a position in love and wanting to care for these kids and help parents with the best way that I can to keep them safe.
Exactly. Thanks again, Ryan. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Patricia.
All righty. So that was TV Skywriter. If you'd like to be on the show, if you have something to share, if you're an entrepreneur or you want to help protect kids in other ways, or if you have a album that just came out, a CD, or you're an author, book just came out or whatever, just write to me, Durham, skywriter@gmail.com. If you're local to Durham, North Carolina, then read. Anybody can read it, but it's all about Durham. So I encourage you to read Durham Skywriter. That's Durham, skywriter.com. That's Durham's online community paper. TV Skywriter is on Sundays, like tonight. I also have a local edition. So if you have a nonprofit or Sunday is just not a good night for you, and you are relatively local, Triangle area, North Carolina, we can do this show, a 20-minute version during the week between 9-ish and 5-ish. So you can just write to me. You can find me on Facebook, Patricia A. Murray. Again, write to me, Durham Skywriter @gmail.com. And with that, thanks again, Ryan.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, let me show that screen again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. There you go. Jot that down, folks. Jot that down. Thanks again, Ryan.
Thank you. Do you want me to close out now, Patricia?
Yeah, you can close out, and I'll tell the folks good evening. Thanks again, Ryan. You enjoy the rest of your evening, folks, and I'll see you again real soon. Pat Murray signing off. Ciao for now.